So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology. In this episode, we're going to take a look at the iPhone XS Max and see, is this a phone for you in 2023? Now, this device right here, early 2023, you can find this thing used for some pretty good price points, right around $197 to $250. I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous price points, if you're looking secondhand for what you're actually getting with this phone. I can remember a few years ago that if you wanted to get a $200 iPhone used, this is what you were working with, an iPhone 5S. Now look at that compared to what you have now in the same, price point in 2023. We've matured so much now that you can get an awesome large screen OLED premium iPhone secondhand for well under $300. That's insane. What a really good deal you're getting, regardless of what I'm going to say in this video. It's just a really good price. This thing launched at over $1,000 with taxes, well over 1,100 actually. So we're going to begin by talking about the build and the body. Now, this doesn't look modern anymore by today's standards because the camera housing, Apple went to the stovetop design. The edges are curved. They might be going back a little bit more curved for the iPhone 15 models, but it's still a beautiful looking phone. Most people would just think you have the older iPhone. You're not going to get away from that. But when it comes to your actual experience, you're going to get premium stainless steel edges. The back's going to be not the etched material, it's going to pick up some fingerprints, especially if you go with space gray. But the silver and the gold model, this is one of the better looking golds I think Apple ever made. But definitely, it's still going to feel premium to you, new to you phone. And so I still think it's not a bad option overall. So reviewing the display here in 2023, you're looking at a phone that has a 6.5 inch OLED panel, and it has well over 400 pixels per inch. Actually, 458 pixels per inch to be exact. So what that means is that you're getting a super sharp panel. Now, why this is a really good deal overall is because most phones, when they're going to give you a panel like this, if you want something newer, you're going to have to pay, well over $800 or so to get a panel like this when a phone is new. So this panel is still super high end, and it's not going to cost you more than $300. So this is a really good deal, even by comparison to a XR and an iPhone 11. You're getting your money's worth here on the panel in today's day and age. 6.5 inches is not the largest, but it doesn't feel very different from the 6.7s on the newer phones. It's not a major change. One of the good things about this phone is you do get the 3D touch, which is just faster on the presses than the newer phones. So that's really nice as well. Also, you do have that notch, but it's not quite as deep. So when you are viewing content like this concept iPhone Ultra right here that's coming out of Apple News, let's go ahead and see if it'll rotate. Well, it's not rotating. What happens is that your notch doesn't really cut in too much to the content. But overall, I mean, the panel just really good, overall, really sharp, everything smooth. It's 60 hertz, but iOS we know is pretty smooth overall. It just feels really good, and I'm just happy with it. The brightness, not the brightest out there, but it's plenty bright enough for most people. So a fantastic display panel option. You still get the same features from the new phones, dark mode, night shift, and true tone. So that doesn't change either. It's just a fantastic offering at this price point and plenty large for most people. Now, in terms of the software itself, this iPhone XS Max does give you the same software you're going to find on the current iPhone 14 Plus, which would be like the modern day version of this, or even the iPhone 14 Pro Max. 16.3 is on board here. And what that means is that you're going to get a phone that is up to date. Now, Apple A12 Bionic, this is from 2018. It might only have 2 years of software support left, but at the same time, 2 years, you might already be planning an upgrade. So if you want to use it for a couple of years, an awesome option to get started with iPhone. Even really good option here. Software gives you the same app library. It gives you the same widget features, you can see them right there, just the same overall feel. And that's good. I mean, the phone came out in 2018 and it feels like a brand new iPhone when it comes to software. one of the best things about them. Now, one area where this phone is lacking a little bit is in performance. By comparison to a newer iPhone, I can definitely tell the animations are a little slower. Loading things are a little bit slower. Like it'll take a second there. You see like it'll take a little bit of a second there. And once again, things are a little bit slower. They don't fly through everything like the newer Bionic chips. But at the same time, there's no lag, there's no major delays, and there's nothing in it that's really gonna slow your everyday life down in 2023. I just don't see it happening. Now, if you use a newer iPhone and you go back to this, you're gonna feel like this is not as quick. You can definitely tell, but it's not no slow poke either. It's got 4 gigabytes of RAM, which is pretty good. And it also gives you just a really good overall feel to the phone because you're getting something that feels premium while still performing quite well. Now, they still have 60 hertz on the most current iPhones. This has 60 hertz, so something like this won't even feel that dated. The A12 Bionic it was overpowered for the time and it really held its own. 2.49 gigahertz, so the newer phones are clocked higher. And you aren't gonna have the fastest game launch times, the fastest gaming performance overall, but the phone itself still can handle most of what you wanna do on an iPhone. And that's saying a lot for this price. I'm astonished by, again, what you could get before. 1 gig of RAM, 2 gig of RAM. Now you're getting 4 gig of RAM, 6.5 inch OLED. I mean, all this for under $300 used. What a deal you're getting here in 2023 versus before. I mean, people are going to be spoiled by phones. They're already spoiled by phones, but they're going to be even more spoiled going forward. Even if they're looking for a cheap secondhand option, everyone could have a nice phone these days. And I'm talking about the US market. So if a lot of people are watching this and you're not from that area and you're saying, well, not in my country, bro. Well, listen, I'm talking from a US perspective. So I can't really speak for where you're at if you're not from the US. Now, if you aren't, let us know what the prices are there. But I'm pretty certain even older, cheap iPhones should be a little bit cheaper than when they first came out, even in other places. And storage, you can get this with 256 gigs, you can get it with 64 or 512 gigs. So you can get a lot of space on this phone as well. And because of that, let's talk about the camera experience. The iPhone XS Max brought HDR to the phone, which was pretty good. Really good 4K 60 video. And this was a time when Apple didn't really have the ultra wide cameras, but they still had really good, just solid, easy to take photos that really always turned out well. With the same with video. They didn't really do amazingly well with nighttime photography. You would have to download a separate app to do that. So if you're looking for nighttime photography, which is what a lot of manufacturers are pushing these days, which I don't really use all that much because I don't know about you, but at nighttime I'm trying to relax and get ready for bed. But a lot of people are like crazy about super nighttime photographies. Anyway, I think photos look better in the daytime anyway. But you have the portrait mode right here. You have contour light. You do have panoramic. All the stuff you would need. Now the front-facing camera was pretty good on this phone as well. Nowhere near as good as the 11 Pro Max, but it still takes a very acceptable selfie, and nobody's gonna say, oh, your picture quality looks horrible on this phone. As a matter of fact, it looks pretty premium. So I would say that, yeah, in 2023, reviewing this phone right now, if you're only paying $200 or $300, this camera is stellar. It's probably better than some entry-level point-and-shoot cameras that are like, $300-400, $500 cameras, maybe slightly better, but this is really good. Everything you're getting in this, you're not gonna get 4K 60 in those cameras. And so let's move on to the battery life. Now, the battery life, I usually always use low power mode on the XS Max because it wasn't like a super long lasting battery, but it still lasts most of the day. I was always finishing the day with about 20% on this one. And if you don't have high battery health on this device, you are gonna need to go ahead and get a replacement battery. So when you're looking for one of these, make sure you ask the seller or you find out how much battery health is on there. You're not gonna wanna buy one with the low 80s or nothing like that. That wouldn't be too great. But you can see Apple has now optimized battery charging, clean energy charging. So they're bringing more software enhancements to help your battery last longer as well. So that also benefits this older iPhone. Now this thing does wirelessly charge. However, it's fast charging, not super fast. 15 watts. They went up to over 20 now. So this one's not a super fast charging phone. And at 3174 milliamp hour battery, this is kind of small by comparison to today's larger phones. However, this phone can still make it a full day with medium use. I'm not going to say heavy use, but medium use, this phone could definitely make it a full day. Now, this comes in space gray, silver, or gold. And when it comes to connectivity, you are limited to 4G on this phone. It's a big, thing you're going to have to deal with. A lot of people say, I can't deal with 4G anymore. Well, honestly, if you're on Wi-Fi most of the time, I think most people could deal with 4G. 5G is getting much more important for a lot of people, but personally, I think 4G LTE was still very fast even when 5G came out. So this phone to me is still usable for 1 to 2 years. I wouldn't say 4 or 5 years down the line, but definitely like a year or two maybe. This is a solid option to play around with. Or if you just have Android phones, you want a cheap option to play around with iOS, you don't really want to go all in on the iPhone, this could be a really good deal. iPhone XS Max early 2023, performing well. Battery life is okay. Build still feels nice. Camera still nice. Phone just feels good. I'm not going to say excellent. I'm not going to say great, but it still feels good. And that's saying a lot for the age of this phone. I will be covering this again when iOS 17 launches, and maybe I'll cover it again later this year as it approaches its 5 years on the market. So stay tuned for that. I'll catch you on the next one. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and let me know if you're picking up a XS Max, or if you have one and you're just holding on, you still love it. I'd love to hear your comments below. Thumbs up. I'll catch you on the next one. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.